Hello, my name is Dr. Minde, and in this lecture series, we are going to discuss the appendages of the skin. So, these are the objectives, the components of the appendages, and the functional and structural organization. So, this is the skin generally. You can see the epidermis here with the stratified squamous epithelium. And then this is the dermo-epidermal junction. You can see the interdigitation between the papillary dermis and the epidermis. Then these are the structures in the dermis. So this is hair follicles. These are hair follicles. These are sebaceous glands. You can appreciate fibroblasts and collagen fibers. You can appreciate the sweat glands here. And then you also have neurovascular structures that are within the dermis. So what are the components of the skin appendages? You have the merocrine sweat glands, the apocrine sweat glands, like in the axillary and anogenital areas, the ceruminous glands within the ear, the mammary glands that form parts of the female reproductive glands, and these are usually considered as modified sweat glands. Then you have hair and nails. So those are the appendages of the skin. So this is how the skin looks like. You can appreciate the epidermis. You can see the basal there, then the interdigitated with the papillary dermis. You can appreciate neurovascular structures. This is a sweat gland that's opening up through a duct. This is a hair follicle. This is the hypodermis with adipose tissue. Then you can appreciate the hair erector pili muscles in the hair follicle there. So the hairs are usually slender and keratinous filaments that form the hair follicles. And in a transverse section, you can appreciate the parts of the hair follicle. It has an innermost medulla and then followed by cortex. Then the outermost portion is the cuticle. So if you're to do a transverse section like this, you can appreciate the innermost medulla here, followed by cortex, and then the cuticle that is made up of the different layers. So you have an internal root sheath here, external root sheath, before you get to the glassy membrane. Okay, then this is your hair shaft that has an inner medulla and an outer cortex. So there's a presence of melanocytes at the base here. This is the hair papilla where the hair comes from, and this is your subcutaneous tissue or adipose tissue. So then we go to sebaceous gland. Sebaceous gland is found in all the skin except where you have thick skin, the palms, the hands, and the soles of the feet. And they have ducts that open into the neck of hair follicles. This occurs except in the penis, in the labia minora, the clitoris, and the lips, where they open directly onto the surface of the skin. So in the penis, labia minora, clitoris, and the lips, the sebaceous glands open directly onto the surface of the skin. Then these sebaceous glands are usually simple branched alveolar glands, and they have a holocrine type of secretion. That means that they're destructive. After the cells of the gland secrete sebum, the cells are usually disintegrate, so they're destructive, and they secrete sebum, which is usually a lubricant and an antiseptic. So this is a pilosebaceous unit that is made up of a hair follicle, a sebaceous gland opening towards the follicle, and a hair erector pili muscle. So the contraction of this hair erector pili muscle will force sebum from the sebaceous gland through the hair follicle. So this is a sebaceous gland. It looks like a bunch of grapes. We go to the sweat glands. We have two types of sweat glands. You have the apocrine type and the ecrine or merocrine type. The apocrine is found where around the axilla, the pubic region, and the areola of the breast. The axilla, pubic region, where you have hair, and areola of the breast, and they secrete sweat, which is usually degraded by bacteria, and that gives a distinct odor. So that is why after sweating, there's usually a distinct odor on the axilla and pubic region because of these apocrine secretions. So the sweat glands are simple coiled glands. Simple because the ducts do not branch. So they are coiled glands that lie within the dermis and the hypodermis of the skin, and around the ducts of these sweat glands, myoepithelial cells are found there, and when they contract, they aid in expulsion of the secretions of the sweat glands. The ducts of the sweat glands, like any other exocrine glands, are lined by simple cuboidal epithelium. So these are the sweat glands, okay? These are ceruminous gland. This section was taken from the ear. This is a sweat gland. So if you do a cross section around this portion, they will appear more or less like this ceruminous glands. So you'll just appreciate their tubular glands and their coiled. So when you do a cross section, you cut through the gland at many areas, so you can appreciate the simple cuboidal lining. Then you go to the nails. These are the thickened portions of the epithelial surfaces of the phalanges. And the thickened portions are the nail beds. Nail bed is where the nail rests, and it's usually surrounded laterally and proximally by a fold of skin, which you call the nail wall. So the proximal part of the nail is usually hidden under the nail groove. And that's where the nail root, the root of the nail is. It's at the proximal end under the nail groove. And the epithelial cells under this root usually form the nail matrix. So the nail is just heavy keratinization of the epithelial cells of the skin. So this is what you just described. This is the nail bed. The distal phalanx, the dorsum aspect has a nail bed, and this is the nail lying on the nail bed, and the nail root is deep on the nail groove. So the region above the nail, this is the proximal nail fold, and then you have the eponychium, the cuticle around here is the eponychium. So the nail matrix houses the nail root, then the nail lays on a nail bed, and then this portion is the hyponychium, while the eponychium is the cuticle above the nail here. This is the free edge of the nail. Okay, so this is your lunula and this is your eponychium here. This is the free edge of the nail and the body of the nail. So the root of the nail is within the nail matrix. Thank you very much.